Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship at Stony Brook. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that this, our spiritual home, is located on the traditional land of the Seneca Nation. May we continue to honor them as a spiritual people. My name is Wendy Engelhardt, and I am pleased to serve as your worship associate this morning with our service leaders, Deede Cook and Peter Winkler. They will also be wearing the hats of our musicians and hymnists today. Our tech team is the incomparable trio of Rob Pond, Rich Hall, and Linda Cortese. As a reminder, for the summer services, there will be no religious education or tiny talk classes. Our little ones are always welcome to make use of the blue rug of playthings and art supplies. And for those of us who may be young at heart, but might be looking for something to keep your hands busy while you're here, please visit the basket of chenille sticks that Michelle is holding up, aka pipe cleaners, in the foyer. Please don't be shy. If I was sitting there, I'd be getting one myself. Good for twisting and holding. Welcome to all who have gathered here today in our sanctuary and online. We are all one congregation worshiping together, so let's all share a hearty good morning to all those who are joining us online, there to the camera on my right. Good morning. A very special welcome to those of you who are here for the first time. Whatever it was that brought you through our doors this morning, we are honored that you are here. So, if you are comfortable doing so, please raise your hand so we can recognize and greet you personally after the service. Well, all right then, you're all welcome. Please plan to join us after the service for coffee and conversation. For those who are with us online, if you sign off after the service and return to our website, you will find the link for joining our virtual coffee hour and small group chats. Either way, you will find some helpful people who can answer any questions you may have. If you wish to share a joy or a sorrow at any time during the service, you're invited to come forward to the table on your right and drop a pebble in the water, sending ripples through the water just as a kind word or a thoughtful act sends ripples out into the world. Now, if you could, please take a moment to silence your cell phones. Go ahead, we'll wait. Okay, this allows all of us to be fully present together. We will now enter into the sacred place of worship with the sounding of the morning bell. May the vibrations help us to center ourselves and bring us into this time of worship. The flaming chalice is the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, the flame of our faith held in the cup of our covenant. We have invited Joan Kiley to light our chalice this morning as I say these words by Joseph M. Cherry, entitled, Our Beacon of Hope. As we gather together for worship this morning, being both near and far, we light our chalice as we do each week. It is a symbol of our faith. May its light be a beacon of hope for the many, those who feel lost, those who feel threat, those who feel tired, those who feel uncertain. May our beacon of hope help you find home, help you feel safe, and give you respite, and honor your searching mind and spirit. Please rise in body or in spirit while you open your hymnal to number 66, When the Summer Sun is Shining. Number 66. For our time for all ages today, I'd like to read an adapted reading of a beautiful story called Hector's Favorite Place by author and illustrator Joe Rooks. Hector the Hedgehog loved his home. It was his favorite place to be. At home, there was always so much to do. He could bake cookies. He could play the piano. He could paint pictures. Hector loved his home so much that he didn't often go out. Home was cozy and snuggly and safe. But Hector liked to hear all the news of the forest when his friends came to visit. One day, Hector was just about to take a little nap when there was a knock at the door. "Hector, have you seen? It's a bright summer day outside," said Archie the squirrel. "Let's go to the forest and play hide and seek." "Jumpin' June bug," said Hector. "It is a beautiful day." And so he ran out to find his backpack. But then Hector began to worry. What if he got lost while playing hide and seek? And what if he couldn't find his way home? What if he got hungry and thirsty? Sorry, Archie, I can't," said Hector. "I've got so much to do. Maybe tomorrow." "What a shame," said Archie. The next day, Hector was reading his new book when the phone rang. "Hello? Hello? Hello? Hector, have you heard? The lake is open for the summer," said Max the mouse. "Would you like to go swimming?" "Hop in, honeybees," said Hector. Hector used to go swimming when he was small. It was so much fun. Hector was just about to say yes when he began to worry. What if the water was too cold? What if the lake was too deep? What if he had forgotten how to swim? Sorry, Max, I can't. I've got so much to do. Maybe tomorrow." "What a shame," said Max. Later on, Hector was just tucking into his favorite supper when a letter came through the mail slot and landed on the doormat. "Dear Hector, you are invited to the summer forest party. There will be music, dancing, and lemonade for everyone. Tomorrow, 1 o'clock. "Oh, that sounds like fun," thought Hector. But then Hector began to worry. He worried about going into the forest far from home. "What if I get lost again?" he thought. He worried about the music. "What if it was too loud?" he thought. He worried about the dancing. "What if I can't dance?" he thought. He even worried about the lemonade. "What if it's too sour?" Ugh, he thought. "I will have to say I'm too busy to go," sighed Hector. He decided to go to bed. Well, that night, Hector didn't sleep very well. Archie and Max were sure to be at the party. Would they be sad if Hector wasn't there? Hector knew deep down that his worries were stopping him from going and enjoying himself. He realized he had to be brave. In the morning, he put on his best bow tie. "You can do this," he said to himself. "What a lovely day for a party," thought Hector as he strolled proudly along the path. He could hear the music playing as he walked further into the forest. It sounded so beautiful. Hector came to a clearing where everyone was dancing and enjoying themselves. Hector watched from behind a tree. "Maybe I should just go home," he thought nervously. Well, then Hector closed his eyes and pictured himself twirling around to the music. Imaginary Hector was the life and soul of the party. If only, he thought longingly. All of a sudden, Hector realized that his feet were tapping along to the beat. His prickles were swaying to the rhythm, and before he knew it, he was dancing. Hector enjoyed himself so much that his worries didn't seem to matter anymore. Archie and Max were so pleased Hector had joined the party. They drank the last of the lemonade, which was sweet, not sour at all, and the music came to an end. "There's only one thing left to do," said Hector. "Swimming!" At first, Hector waded into the water very carefully, but it wasn't cold. Hector discovered that swimming was just as fun as he remembered, and being a hedgehog, he was quite good at it. His prickles were filled with air, so he could float and swim for as long as he liked. "Time to go, Hector," said Archie. "Your favorite place to be?" said Max. Hector thought for a moment. "I think I've found another favorite place to be," he said. "Now, Where should we go tomorrow? Hector's favorite place. Some of you already know our service leaders for today, Dorothea Cook, or Deede to her friends, and Peter Winkler. But for those who have not yet had the chance to get to know them, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce this incredible pair to you. A native of Seattle, Washington, Deede majored in violin performance at the University of Washington. She was much in demand as a professional violinist in Seattle's lively music scene and was active in the musical life of the University Unitarian Church in Seattle. In 1987, at a summer music camp, Deede met a fellow faculty member, a composer from Stony Brook University by the name of Peter Winkler. California-born Peter began playing the piano and making up tunes at an early age. He studied composition at Princeton and Harvard universities, began teaching at Stony Brook in 1971, and retired 42 years later in 2014. His research and teaching dealt with the history and theory of American popular music, as well as traditional music compositions and theory. After 2 years of a long-distance courtship, Deede married Peter and moved to Setauket. A passionate teacher, Deede directed a community music program at Stony Brook University, teaching students from preschool age up to school music educators. She also coached chamber music and taught violin and viola privately. From the first moment Deede and Peter played together in 1987, they knew they had a special music chemistry. They fell in love and began a musical collaboration that has lasted ever since. They joined our fellowship in 1992, and the two of them have been serving our community with beautiful music ever since. If you haven't heard their Silken Rags recording, the CD is available on Spotify, Apple Music, and other streaming services. Thank goodness I have a teenager to teach me about that. Over the years, Peter has written many pieces of music for our fellowship. Deede.
Good morning. Our first reading this morning is from the book Transitions, Making Sense of Life's Changes by William Bridges. Every transition begins with an ending. We have to let go of the old thing before we can pick up the new one, not just outwardly, but inwardly, where we keep our connections to the people and the places that define who we are. There we are, living in a new town, but our heads are full of the old trivia, where the Chinese restaurant was and when it opened in the evening, what Bob's phone number was, which shoe store stocked the children's sizes, and when the doctor took his day off. No wonder so many tribal societies held rites of passage to help a person transition from one life phase to the next. Without a transition, a change is just a rearrangement of the old furniture. Unless transition happens, the change won't work.
Now is the time to settle comfortably in your chair, feet flat on the floor, and hands relaxed in your lap. First, I will share with you words of meditation. Then we will experience a moment or two of silence, after which Peter and Deede will gently take us out of the silence, with hymn 123, Spirit of Life. If you're not already familiar with it, you might want to open it up in your lap now. In Between by Kate R. Walker. In between, liminal, that space where we wait, between moments, events, results, action, no action. to stand on the threshold waiting for something to end and something new to arrive, a pause in the rumble of time. Awareness claims us, alert to shadow of something different. In between invitation and acceptance, in between symptom and diagnosis, in between send and receipt of inquiry and question, in between love given and love received. Liminality, a letting go, entering into confusion, ambiguity, and disorientation, a ritual begun. Pause. Look back at once was. Look forward into what becomes. Identity sheds a layer, reaches into something uncomfortable to wear. In between lighting of the match and the kindling of oil, in between choosing of text and the reading of words, in between voices and notes carried through the air into ears to hear, in between creation thrusts ever forward, social hierarchies may disassemble and structures may fall, communities may revolt or tempt trust, tradition may falter or creativity crashes forward, leaders may step down or take charge. The people may choose or refuse. In between, storm predicted, the horizon beacons. In between, theology of process reminds us to step back. In between, where minutiae and galaxies intermingle with microbes and mysteries. In between, liminal, that space where we wait, look, listen, feel, breathe, silence.
This reading is one of Leonard Bernstein's Young People's Concerts given in 1958. The title of the concert was, "What Does Music Mean?" We can't always name the things we feel. Sometimes we can. We feel joy, love, hate, peacefulness, whatever. But every once in a while, we have feelings that are so deep, so special, that we have no words for them. And that's where music is so marvelous. Because music names them for us, only in notes instead of words. It's all in the way music moves. We must never forget that music is movement, always going somewhere, shifting and changing and flowing from one note to another. And that movement can tell us more about the way we feel than a million words can. Won't you please now stand in body or spirit and open your gray hymnal to number 350, The Ceaseless Flow of Endless Time. So as Leonard Bernstein said, we must never forget that music is movement. And listening to music can be like going on a trip. You start from home, you go somewhere, and then you get back home. Let me show you what I mean by telling you about a piece of mine. It's called Spiritual. It's for viola and piano. My first idea for this piece was just a pair of chords, just moving back and forth. This is home for this piece. The two chords are in balance, like breathing in and out. We call this sense of home being in a key. In this case, we're in the key of F. These chords suggested to me an old gospel choir or spiritual. And so I began hearing a melody that went along with it. The melody keeps rising, each time gets a little higher. I could have just kept going back and forth with these two chords, but by the time the melody got up there, the melody said, "Hey, I want to go somewhere else. Let's leave home." And so we go to now. That's a very different kind of chord. It's called a diminished chord. It's a kind of chord that doesn't have a strong sense of root. It doesn't have an up or a down. It can go in many, many different directions. It could go, for example, it could go, oh, here. Or it could go here. Or it could go, The diminished chord is a liminal space, a neutral zone. It's neither here nor there. It's precisely nowhere. It's the muddle in the middle. Remember the words from this morning's meditation about a state of liminality, a letting go, entering into confusion, ambiguity, and disorientation. This diminished chord was often used in old movies to signify danger or menace. I remember a wonderful old tune by the Coasters, Along Came Jones. Anyone remember that song? And then he grabbed her. And then he tied her up. And then he threw her on the railroad tracks. And then a train started coming. And then along came Jones. So in my spiritual, this diminished chord doesn't signify danger, but it does signify uncertainty. Where are we? We're not in Kansas anymore. It helps us travel away from home, but at first it doesn't get far. It goes, so. Diminished chord, just guess to hear. These chords are still in the key of F. You get clearly. And after a while, that same diminished chord comes back. But this time, it just takes us back home. So I wrote that much of the piece back in 1993. It's around the time that Deede took up the viola and I wanted to write a piece for her. It was a good enough tune to be heard twice, so the way I do it there is first the viola plays it and then the piano takes it up. And then we're through the tune twice and I wasn't sure what to do next. I liked it, but it didn't feel finished yet. Somehow, 2 little trips just around the block and then back home didn't seem like enough of a trip. A couple of years later, I finally decided where the music wanted to go next. So the second time through, when we get to that second diminished chord, this is the one that took us home the last time. This time it doesn't go home, it goes somewhere else. Sorry. Now we're in a different place. We're not home anymore. We're in a different key, actually, D minor, a darker key, and there's a little more stress in music. And then we sort of break away and it sort of gets softer. And then we start in a still further away key. Now we're a long way from home. Remember, this is where we started. we going to get home from there? Well, fortunately, we can just sort of slip around and now we're back home. And never more to roam, right? We're safe back home from our little journey. But maybe not. Because by the time I got to the end of the tune this last time, I felt, well, there's still something we need to say. So when we get around again to that last pivoting diminished chord, the one that took us home the first time, this time it keeps building. And we're back in that dark D minor. But again, it's not actually that far from home. And we're back home the last time. So I've told the story of this music as kind of a journey away from home and back again. This is the kind of journey many pieces of music take, but not all of them. Some music never leaves home at all. There's lots of wonderful music that just stays in the same place, keeps turning around, enjoying where it is, like Hector the Hedgehog, comfortable and safe in his home. In the words of the hymn we just sang, some music lives in an eternal now. A lot of dance music is like that. And at the other extreme, around the turn of this 20th century, some modernist composers began to journey farther and farther from home, and sometimes they never made it back. Their music ended up in a different place from where it started. And even more radical, there are some music that has no sense of where home is at all. It's a constant process of transformation, never coming to rest. This music was the expression of a 20th century culture that was increasingly unstable. 2 world wars, the Depression, and of course today we are still living in unstable, scary times. And many composers are writing music that expresses that instability and tension. But for me, the way I try to deal with this scary world is by holding on to a kind of music that still feels stable and grounded. I love the music of the past, the old European composers, Monteverdi, Bach, Mozart, Beethoven, Chopin. And I also love the old hymns and spirituals. Over the years, Deede and I have created a number of musical meditations on old hymns. You heard one at the beginning of the service, and you'll hear another one at the end of the service, and both of them we will pair with the hymns that they're based on. So I want to add my voice to all these wonderful voices of the past. But I have no illusions about returning to an idealized past. I'm not trying to make music great again. The more I learn about history, the more I know that the idea of the good old days is a dangerous myth. The good old days weren't so great. And I know that nothing is permanent. In fact, I once wrote a piece called "No Condition is Permanent." Everything is changing. We are changing. We aren't the same person from one moment to the next. In the words of the hymn we just sang, we are in the ceaseless flow of endless time. But one way we deal with constant change is to try to make sense of it by telling a story, a narrative, something that has a sense of direction, of purpose, of meaning, a story with a beginning and a middle and an end. Stories like these aren't necessarily true. They are fictions, but they are our way of making sense of a world that would otherwise be chaotic and meaningless. And that's the sort of thing I'm trying to do with pieces like the spiritual. So we will play the spiritual for you as part of the offertory, and then afterwards Deede will pick up the thread.
Thank you, Peter. At each service, it is our spiritual practice of generosity to share our offering with a local organization working for social justice. As you can imagine, needs are great right now in so many areas. For the month of July, the social justice portion of our offering will be shared with Community Solidarity, a grassroots organization that collects and shares fresh produce with thousands of people across Long Island at their food share sites. There are no warehouses, no tractor trailers, and no employees. Their volunteers distribute millions of pounds of vegetables which they have collected, thus providing for the nutritional needs of over 6,500 people each week. Community Solidarity believes that food is a human right, and they live into that vision at their food shares. Some of their volunteers are our friends, members, and youth of our own congregation. If you are interested in learning more, please see Laura Lesh. Is she in the room? No, not today. Okay. I'm sure there are many other faces and wonderful people who would be glad to tell you all about their good work. Please give as generously as you are able in support of both the fellowship and Community Solidarity. For those online, the link to donate is in the chat box. The offering will now be gratefully received.
Well, Peter and I have discovered that we have quite a bit in common with Hector the Hedgehog. We love our cozy home. It's our favorite place to be. We can play music, we can bake cookies, we can sit on the porch and read, we can take nice walks in the neighborhood. So why would we even think about leaving? Like Hector, we want things to remain comfortable and predictable, even if at times we might feel a little stuck. We've been in what feels like a stuck place for a while. Many of you have heard us talk about our plans to retire to the Pacific Northwest, and, we're still here. We are like the aging opera diva who goes on a farewell tour every season. People say, "Hey, I thought you guys were moving. What's up with that? Are you going to stay?" And we say, we haven't figured that out yet. The truth is, we are in a liminal space, and just like Peter's diminished chord, we are not sure of our direction, and we're not sure where we're going. We are in transition. And transitions in both music and in life are unsettling and disorienting. So, what do you do when you feel unsettled and disoriented? You Google life transition books. And you learn there are dozens of them on the market that Amazon will deliver to your door the very next day. One of the books I perused online grabbed my attention. It had a very familiar looking cover, a blue butterfly emerging from a chrysalis. I remember seeing this book displayed in bookstore windows when I was a young adult. It was William Bridges' 1980 bestseller, Transitions, Making Sense of Life's Changes. Some of you might even have had this book in your own library, probably shelved right next to Gail Sheehy's Passages, Predictable Crisis of Adult Life. I had never read Transitions, so I checked out a copy at the library. I wanted to see if a book written in 1980 could still be relevant in 2025. I was interested to learn that the author was in his late 40s when he wrote the book, but went back and revised it when he turned 70. He wrote in the preface to the second edition, "Today, things look a bit different to me. Not surprisingly, the natural transitions produced by aging are more on my mind now than they were back then." This was reassuring. So I took the plunge, read the book, and found that it did give me a better understanding of what a life transition is and how to make sense of it. I learned that a change in life is not the same as a transition. Bridges makes this clear. Change, he says, is an external event or a situation that takes place. Transition is the internal psychological process a person goes through in order to come to terms with a new situation. Change is situational. Transition is psychological. The transition model Bridges designed has three parts: an ending, a transition zone, also called a neutral zone, and a new beginning. Something has changed in your life, either by chance or by choice. A new job, a move, a birth, a death, a diagnosis. Regardless of whether the change is welcome or unwelcome, the new situation calls for letting go of the old way of doing things. You have crossed a threshold. Some part of your former identity has ended. In musical terms, we might say that we have arrived at a cadence. In psychological terms, we would say that we are on the border of a transition. Transitions are initiated by endings, not by beginnings. Bridges writes, "Transitions always start with an ending. Even though we are likely to view an ending as the conclusion of a situation, it is also the initiation of a process. We have it backwards. Endings are the first, not the last act of the play. I would guess that most people find endings difficult, even small endings. You might recall the joke about the Irish and Italian goodbyes. The Irish leave a party without saying goodbye, and the Italians say goodbye but never leave. Peter and I tend to be more Italian than Irish in our goodbyes. Whether you are a dasher or a lingerer, you are avoiding the discomfort of facing an ending. But no matter the lengths you go to avoid them, endings are inevitable. The second phase takes us into the transition or the neutral zone. It can be a disorienting and distressing space. The real difficulties, Bridges say, comes from the transition process, the fallow time between the ending and the new beginning. In musical terms, we might say that we are caught in a prolonged diminished chord, a dissonant, destabilized place away from home. We don't have a clear sense of direction, much less a resolution. Psychologically, we are in the process of transformation, essentially a death and rebirth. Like the butterfly on the cover of Bridges' book, who went through a dramatic breakdown of its former caterpillar body, we are undergoing a metamorphosis. The past you is shedding old identities and transforming into a new you. This is a messy process, and it can't be hurried. There is no fast-forward button to get through it quickly, and there is no rewind button to reset things back to the way they used to be. You simply have to be present to your current reality and do the things that nurture and sustain you. This is a time to transform your suffering into compassion and wisdom, qualities that will help take you to the third phase, the new beginning. Our hope is that we can emerge from the chrysalis restored, regenerated, and ready to engage with life again, willing to experiment with this thing called a new beginning, which will undoubtedly be a little strange, a bit scary, certainly imperfect, but interesting, and maybe even a bit exciting. In the end, I think the Buddhists have it right. Life is nothing but transition and transformation. I will let Thich Nhat Hanh have the last words. We suffer and become anxious when things change, but we forget that impermanence is just as capable of bringing about peace and happiness as it is bringing about sorrow and suffering. If we can learn to accept the idea of impermanence, we will suffer less. We will learn to be free. May it be so. And I should have brought my script up here. Wendy, would you? I thought I had this all figured out. So now, if you can please stand in body or in spirit and open your gray hymnal to number 229 and share in the singing of Make Channels for the Streams of Love. 229. Oh, it says on the iPad 229. Not my fault.
We could just transition right through that. We acknowledge the pebbles which we see creating ripples in the water before us. May these ripples carry our shared joys and sorrows, reminding us that we are connected and we hold each other in love and support. For our benediction, I'd like to share a reading entitled Fearful Joy by Rabindranath Tagore. Is it beyond thee to be glad with the gladness of this rhythm? To be tossed and lost and broken in the whirl of this fearful joy? All things rush on. They stop not. They look not beyond. No power can hold them back. They rush on, keeping step with that restless, rapid music. Seasons come dancing and pass away. Colors, tunes, and perfumes pour in endless cascades in the abounding joy that scatters and gives up and dies every moment.